She was born into one of Europe's most powerful royal families, raised beside glittering lakes and golden palaces, engaged to a king, desired by princes, and yet she died trapped inside a burning building, refusing to save herself. This is not a fairy tale. This is the true story of a woman history almost forgot. A princess who never wanted power. Only love, freedom, and peace. This is the tragic life of Sophie Charlotte of Bavaria, Europe's saddest princess. Sophie Charlotte was born in Munich in 1847, into the famous Bavarian royal family. She was the youngest sister of Empress Elisabeth of Austria, the legendary Sisi. From the outside, Sophie's childhood looked perfect. Her family owned palaces. She wore silk dresses. Music echoed through the halls. But inside the family, something was missing. Her father, Duke Maximilian, was charming but distant. Her mother, Ludwig, believed love was a luxury. Marriage was a duty. While Sophie's sisters were married off to emperors and princes, Sophie was left behind. Too quiet, too emotional, too sensitive. She grew up feeling unnecessary. Then came King Ludwig II of Bavaria, the dreamer king, the castle builder, the man obsessed with Wagner and fantasy. Ludwig and Sophie were cousins. But more than that, they were alike. They loved music, poetry, long walks by the lake. Letters turned into meetings. Meetings turned into hope. In 1867, the unthinkable happened. Sophie Charlotte became engaged to the King of Bavaria. For one moment, the forgotten princess believed her life finally had meaning. But fairy tales don't always end happily. Almost immediately, Ludwig began to pull away. He avoided Sophie, ignored her in public, delayed the wedding again and again. Behind closed doors, Ludwig had secrets Sophie never fully understood. Finally, without warning, the engagement was broken. Europe watched. The press whispered. Courts gossiped. And Sophie's reputation was destroyed. In royal society, a broken engagement was not just heartbreak. It was social death. Sophie collapsed. Friends described her as pale, silent, hollow. She was no longer a future queen. She was a problem. Broken and desperate for affection, Sophie fell in love again. This time with the wrong man. A commoner. A photographer. A man she was never allowed to love. Their meetings were secret. Dangerous. Scandalous. When the affair was discovered, Sophie was forced to choose. Duty or her heart. History would not forgive her either way. To erase the scandal, her family arranged another marriage. Sophie married Ferdinand of Orléans, a French prince living in exile. On paper, it was respectable. In reality, it was an emotional prison. She became a wife, then a mother. But happiness never came. Letters reveal a woman drowning in sadness, anxiety, and exhaustion. Today we might call it depression. Back then it was simply called weakness. In her late 30s, Sophie fell in love again. This time with her doctor. He listened to her, understood her pain, made her feel human, and for that, she was punished. Her family declared her mentally unstable. Doctors diagnosed her with moral insanity. Without a trial, without her consent, Sophie Charlotte was locked away in a psychiatric sanatorium. Her letters were intercepted. Cold water treatments were used. She was isolated from the world, all because she dared to love outside the rules of royalty. When Sophie was finally released, she was a changed woman. No rebellion, no resistance. Instead, she turned to faith and charity. She joined Catholic aid organizations, helped the poor, cared for orphans. She no longer wanted crowns, only purpose. In Paris, she volunteered at a charity event known as the Bazar de la Charité. It would be her final act. On May 4, 1897, a fire broke out. A single match. A spark, then chaos. The building was made of wood and fabric. Flames spread in seconds. Over 200 people were trapped inside. Women screamed. Children panicked. Sophie Charlotte was offered help. She refused. Instead, she stayed behind, guiding others to safety. Witnesses heard her say, "Go, save yourselves. I will be the last." The roof collapsed. Within minutes, the building became an inferno. 126 people died, including Sophie. Her body was burned beyond recognition. She was identified only by her dental records. No crown, no throne, no kingdom. Only sacrifice. Sophie Charlotte of Bavaria died not as a queen, but as a hero. History remembers emperors, kings, victors. But Sophie Charlotte reminds us of something else. That royalty does not guarantee happiness, that love can be dangerous, and that sometimes the bravest lives end in silence. She was never meant to rule Europe, but in her final moments, she showed more courage than any monarch. This was the story of Europe's saddest princess,